好，大家好哈，很高兴大家来参加我们这一次的这个复演人的座谈。那我是耿一伟哦，那我目前是魏武营戏剧中心的那个戏剧顾问这样。那当然等一下会讲为什么我可以，因为我跟Lukas 其实之间有蛮多的这个合作，还有就是在台湾跟在国外都有碰到过。那我想今天当然很难得，就是这一次这个复演人这个作品是一个很特别的一个作品，因为其实复演人这个小说本来就是一个非常有全球化视野的台湾小说，这样哦，我想问一下有看过复演人这部小说的举手？哦，很好，所以那大家一定也会觉得这个是一个很特别的事件哦。那 Lukas 本身呢，我要来简单的介绍他一下哈，因为他刚才要自己讲哦，实际上他是法国导演，对，他是德国人，但是他是法国导演。实际上 Lukas 是世界级的导演哈，那他很年轻的时候在欧洲，在德国，在柏林的那个雷宁广场剧院就已经跟一些很有名的导演啊，像卢邦迪啊，然后那个Peter Stein 啊，这个都是非常就是60年代的时候在欧洲就是很有名的大导演，然后一起工作过这样。然后他也有在意大利跟很有名的那个意大利的这个歌剧导演一起工作。那90年代以后，他就在法国导很多戏，然后他甚至在那个Comédie Française， 就是说法兰西喜剧院。我跟你讲，我刚还有跟他讲，我说我以前我在台北艺术节当总监的时候，我邀过那个德意志剧院，他们叫 Deutsche Theater， 那个是柏林的5个戏剧剧院。德意志剧院在柏林是非常老牌的剧院。然后呢，他们那里面有一个剧作家叫迪亚罗赫，然后呢，迪亚罗赫的剧本在法兰西剧院演，然后那个经理都很兴奋的跟我说：“嘿，我们的戏在巴黎，在那个因为法兰西已经有300-400年的历史了，所以那个对他们来讲是很了不起的事情了，因为那个是路易14盖的嘛，所以那几乎是法国的国家级的那个殿堂的剧院哦。所以卢卡斯其实如果你去看我都是看那个法文维基百科，他那个资历真的不得了，他在很多剧院都做过。那他2005年因为做这个洛神父以后来了台湾，那就跟台湾结下了很多的缘分哈。那包括了也做过那个黑须马街的那个音乐剧哈，然后我自己在台北艺术节的时候，我有邀他跟那个一心戏剧团做过一个啾咪阿展这样哈。那我想最重要就是他的这种，而且他的最重要是他很厉害，他还学中文，而且他学中文的时候，实际上年纪已经超过不需要学中文的年纪了，我这样讲就好了。而且他会很多语言，什么德文不用讲了，法文、意大利文、韩文好像也会一点，日文也会。然后我写信给他，他用中文回我都吓死了。对，他真的是太可怕了。所以我想他来用他的眼光来做复演人，当然是一件很特别的事情。那台湾文化奖通常是这个颁给那些对台法文化交流有贡献的人，这样哈。他是2018年的得主吧，还是2020年才颁奖？我怎么看到是这样？你是2018年得主还是2020？2018年对，但是他领到证书是2020，有点慢，记得有点慢哦。好，那大概就是这样介绍。那我想最重要的就是，我们要利用今天这个机会来了解他。了解他，其实对我来讲，虽然说我跟他也算认识，可是其实我很少去问他的过去哈，因为我们都是在专注在当下的工作。可是我也是对他的过去充满了很多的这个好奇哈，所以我们要用复演人的眼光来看一下他的那个过去。今天就是最重要的是要了解 Lukas 的这个创作经历哈，还有他对艺术的一些想法。就先从柏林出发好了哈，那是我第一个比较有兴趣的，就是说我发现 Lukas 很年轻的时候就当过了几个很有名的德国的大导演的这个经验，然后那时候在柏林，那我想那应该也是一个蛮重要的剧场经验。所以我想要请问你说，为什么会走上做戏剧场这条路，然后再跟这些大导演，然后为什么会有机会在这些大导演旁边跟他们一起工作
？Theater is like a journey. It's like a way of initiation to the whole complete vastness of life through experiences that go through various experiences and various cultures. So I had the extraordinary opportunity to discover theater at a culminating point in Berlin in Germany. And that was absolutely fabulous for me because I was very young and very easily impressed by the greatness of an art which was done by not only famous directors but also famous actors like Bruno Ganz is maybe one of the most famous.
Bruno Ganz 过世了，你们有看过那个温德斯的那个电影《柏林的天空下》吗？你们知道吗？那个是一个非常有名的。你们知道温德斯是谁吗？温德斯有一个电影叫《柏林的天空下》。Der Himmel über Berlin， 对吧？柏林的天空下，还有一个很有名的德国演员，对，叫 Bruno Ganz， 对。对，没有错。台湾好像翻译成叫《欲望天使》吧？那里面那个男主角，后来他又拍了一个续集叫《So Close Far Away》，咫尺天涯，也是同一个男主角，但是他好像前年过世了。对，就是德国柯俊雄，你就这样想就好。
When I was young, a great curiosity to learn more about other places in Europe, and I was very much influenced by the great myths of European theatre. I was so happy to have an opportunity to see works by Giorgio Strehler, who was a sort of theatre god from Italy. He was representing something contemporary to Brecht for us in Germany. And I was also very keen to have the opportunity to see the great works of Ariane Mnouchkine, Théâtre du Soleil in Paris.
米兰小剧院，Miccolo， 对，就是你们看我真的很厉害。他讲什么？虽然我没有去过意大利，对，但是那个是一个很有名的，他是布莱希特弟，他是一个很有名的意大利导演，可惜过世比较早。然后他就是那个我们讲，他就是有一个叫米兰小剧院，如果你们查，然后他这个有点小故事，不过反正他对那个欧洲后来对那个意大利即兴喜剧的复兴啊，就是用面具这件事情，他是一个蛮重要一个有贡献的人。然后后来也有去巴黎发展吧，我记得。我要讲，因为这有个小故事啊，刚忘了介绍。其实他的身体有台湾的记忆，因为他几年前去兰屿，因为我后来在火车站碰到他，刚好他手摔断了。整个断了，这里就手腕断掉。所以兰屿，他带他老婆小孩去兰屿玩，然后这边他说他碰到之后滑倒，然后这个骨头整个断掉。后来好像是送去慈济吧，对不对？慈济啊，然后才在台湾，然后把它修好。他刚刚不是会闪吗？我说这里面有那个钢片。
So the idea that to associate theater with the idea of journey, with traveling, with discovery. Came to my mind also through the experience of going to see Théâtre du Soleil, Ariane Mnouchkine, which is one of the great directors of France.
然后他刚还有提到说他有看那个阳光剧团，不是太阳马戏团，叫阳光剧团。然后他说那个莫努须金，你们知道吗？有来过国家剧院2次的一个大概是法国当代最伟大的导演，还活着，还在工作，大概70几岁了吧，78岁有了吧。
I'm talking about her because she was very much exploring other cultures, and she was very much in her work curious to discover very old theatre traditions from, for example, India, from other Asian countries, and this has had a lot of impact of my awakening theatre conscience at that time. Same as Peter Brook. Peter Brook was a pioneer of theatre when I went to see his plays in this very particular place, which is the theatre of Bouffe du Nord, which is a shabby old place in the northern poor part of Paris, and just marvelous, like a fairy tale, to discover, for example, his very personal version of the opera Carmen, which was only done with five singers and 2 actors and a small orchestra without choir, and it was a complete revolution for me that one could do theater like this. And I met actors that worked with him, like Miriam Goldschmidt, who's unfortunately left us some years ago, and she was a great participant to the great exploration in Africa that Peter Brook did. And he did not only go to Africa to pick up things of African culture to build it into place, but also to perform there. So it was a real ethnological research adventure of receiving something from the African culture and giving something to the African culture. And I was so impressed when I had the chance to see this kind of work.
他刚刚讲那个，第一个他说，工作方法，这个他是讲那个莫努须金啊。那因为这个女导演她，就是对东方的东西很有兴趣，所以她也做过印度的题材，然后她也做过那个日本的题材，就是她很喜欢亚洲的文化。那这个对这个，然后把这些亚洲文化的表演元素也带进来，对，所以他说他这种好奇还有工作对他有蛮大的影响。因为这个 Goldsmith 他年轻的时候，彼得布鲁克在巴黎的时候，他就已经跟他在工作，所以他们那时候其实可以去听我的上次在这边演讲的录音啊，我有讲，就是然后他们有一起去巴黎非洲旅行，然后在那一次的旅行当中，他们有很多这种对于非洲文化的这个经验这样子啊，所以就是这两个，而且这两个人物都是当时大概从70年代开始，应该这样讲。那到80年代、90年代，在法国或国际上都是非常有影响力的。然后彼得布鲁克也是对东方文化比较有兴趣的一个导演，这样子。
Spanish,
Jewish,
African,
I met her. 就是那个非洲演员，他实际上他是在德国领养，在德国长大的，对。但是他后来又跑去那个I remember the Peter Brook's company， 然后他后来又跑去彼得布鲁克的那个剧院工作。好，你们打何以如是，我现在讲起来，何以如是叫 Why， 就 Peter Brook， 他有一个独角戏叫何以如是。那时候好像是2009年的时候，台北艺术节的一个节目，然后这一个女演员也有来，然后她因为她有这些非洲的文化背景，对，所以等一下可以去查，就可以看到她的样子。但她刚刚说她过世了。
So just to tell you about the strange mixtures that helped me to go beyond the borders and to go beyond limits, and encouraged me to go to new experiences in theaters, and these were in my youth these dominating influences, and I'm very happy to have them. Then another aspect which is maybe important on my way, which finally made me arrive here, is that I was always interested in music and in theater, and I frankly cannot understand why it is so separated in our European culture, because we have such a strict division between spoken theater and opera on the other side, and just maybe some musical comedy and some like Brecht's three penny operas with actors that can sing, but these are minor experiences. Normally the division between drama and opera is very strict, and even represented by the buildings, because we have in Europe theaters for opera and theaters for spoken theater, and then these people, they don't even share the same building, they don't even meet in life, because it's completely separate. So I was always attracted by every experiences that I could meet in other countries where that division does not exist, and this was a quite natural reason for me to go to explore other theater cultures and to orient myself towards them.
那现在既然讲这里，那我们就从一个比较细节的点来讲故事好了。就是你2005年你来台湾，然后你来做洛神父。那对我来讲，这个点是还蛮有趣的，就是我会很好奇说，一方面是因为当时这个合作是跟这个法国的这个叫做雅棉文化之家，那这也是法国在北边一个法国早期他们在盖那个巴黎之外的那个文化中心里面非常重要的一个，好像是60年代就盖了吧，我印象好像是这样的一个蛮重要比较早的一批的好像是早期的台中歌剧院嘛，就这样讲哈，就是在台北之外这样。洛神父是这个剧院跟国家剧院的合作，所以后来好像去法国也有一些巡演，所以想要请问你说，我想就是2个吧哈，一个就是你跟雅棉的这个文化之家的关系，那还有就是 你那一次来台湾的这个经验是什么
？It was very particular the way that I discovered Taiwan because I didn't know anything about Taiwan when I came here for the first time, and it was really a discovery for me. And this was, as Yue said, through a very particular theater in France that was accompanying my work for long years, the Maison de la Culture d'Amiens. Just to introduce a little bit this theater, because why? I mean, Amiens is not a big place. No, maybe you even don't know the name of this place, Amiens, which is not very famous. It's not very picturesque, and it doesn't. Well, it is picturesque because it has a very famous cathedral, so it is a beautiful place. Well, the thing is, you have to understand in France is when you are in Paris, there's a big concentration of culture, but there's also a structural problem because space, rent, everything is so expensive in Paris that it is very difficult to produce theater in Paris. So what happens in Paris is that many of these productions that make a big career in France on stage are actually productions that are done elsewhere, somewhere in a place where it's more easy, more practical to work, where there's space and time and the life conditions are easier for the creational process. And Amiens has this advantage to be on the one side close to Paris. It's like a 1 hour drive in train or by car, and on the other hand, being far away and to have a huge space, a huge theater and rehearsal spaces and workshops and everything what you need to create. When I was invited to make an encounter with this company who is specialized in two sorts of traditional arts, in Nanguan music and Li Yuan Xi, and the combination of both to do theater, it was the attempt to do something new with an old material. And I was very fascinated by this tradition because I had the impression that the art history in Asia allows to go to very contemporary modern things. Let me put it this way. We have in European art history like a development from figurative art to abstract art. So when you have like a timeline which goes from very realistic or figurative and detailed representations to more abstract and pure forms in art. It's like a tendency which covers quite a number of centuries. When you look at Asian art history, you can discover when you go very far back into history, like into the art forms of Tang Dynasty or Han Dynasty, you find very pure and abstract forms, even purer and more abstract forms than in later periods. And this is so interesting. When you see Nanguan music or Li Yuan Xi, you see something which is absolutely pure and in a certain way more contemporary than other periods, and allow us to project an utopic vision of a new theater. And this is what I wanted to experience with this company, which is汉唐乐府, that you maybe have heard about, which is very famous in Taiwan.
我记得我有就是那一次汉唐乐府那个戏，我到现在都还有印象。然后经验你就是很迷幻，很像好像可以吸大麻的感觉，对，就是 Pink Floyd 这样，就是有点迷幻摇滚的感觉这样。我不太会形容但是那个经验蛮特别的，对，就是有一点现代，但是还是很魔幻。我的意思就是那个我也不太会形容，对，但是就是会，但是我就是会想到迷幻音乐，对，然后非常华丽， 跟传统的我印象中看过南管还是有点不太一样。所以你在跟他们工作的时候，想问一个就是说，那个过程当中，什么东西刺激了你？哦，就是真正在跟他们接触的工作里面，你跟这些人接触里面，什么东西给你有一些新的感觉？那第二个是说，那你为这个作品带来了什么东西？对南管来讲
It was a delicate question, actually, this kind of collaboration, because when it was first initiated as a production, I was asked to collaborate. It was meant to be a combination of Eastern music and Western music. There was an idea of bringing together a Nanquan orchestra with a sort of Western orchestra which plays like Renaissance or Baroque music or something like that. And frankly, more and more I got into the process of elaboration, I was less and less convinced that this might work. I found that we say in French, a bad good idea. It was meant to be a good idea, but actually it was a bad idea. But it's like putting things together that will only show to people that it's incompatible and doesn't work together, and more give an idea of a fraction than of a real coherence. And therefore, I asked really myself, what can be my role in this? Because I think to do international theater where it cannot work like an international conference where there's a representative of the Western country and he sits at a table with a representative from an Eastern country and they discuss and with an interpreter and they combine something, and it cannot work like this. Or there's a real interaction, a real understanding, a real confusion between both sides, or it cannot be. And since I proposed to let away music from Western traditions like Renaissance music and do something which is really purely Nanquang, what should I do in that? Why me? That was the question. Why me? I mean, I'm just an outsider. I don't know anything about that. And therefore, I had a particular proposal of a work share with the director of the company, Chen Meiyue, who's the founder, and she's a musicologist and a choreographer. And I said, well, I cannot just be producing a play with your material and with your people, but we can maybe share it in another way. So you're doing the music, you're doing the choreography, and I can maybe care for the set design, for the lights, and well, sort of the directing. But the most important is that we have a shared responsibility for all the artistic aspects of it, and I can maybe bring in my observation from outside. My sensibility in caring for very practical things like the scenery, the sets, the light, and then the directing becomes another question. It's like an addition, a complementary activity, and not the departure point of this. There was one person very important in this adventure, and I just want to, in a certain way, salute her, because she's a dancer who died 3 or 4 years ago, Xiao Hewen. She had the leading role in Luo Shenfu, and she was an extraordinary dancer who had very, very varied experiences working together with Yunmen, with the Cloud Gate, and working with Japanese companies. And she was absolutely fit to be working in traditional dance and contemporary dance, and a real researcher of extreme experiences out of common. And just as a little bit, I always remember her as a very extraordinary partner in this adventure.
我刚刚在查一个资料，是因为我要确认那个戏的名称，因为我刚刚后来发现说，大概全台湾没有任何一个导演 像他们国语都叫他卢老板，你知道吗？卢老板，他们写信说，卢老板，你知道，就是很像传统戏曲有没有？就是他说卢老板，那卢老板他那个就是台湾没有人像他经验这么丰富，因为他南管也导过嘛，然后那个歌仔戏也导过啊，音乐剧也导过了，国语他也导过，你知道吗？台湾没有人像他一样全部都有的，好不好？这真的是这个事情就等一下再来讲。我刚刚要讲的是，后来这个制作就让你又有机会，你是先做黑须马街先，还是王星星先？
先黑须马街。
好，那我们就先来讲。那所以呢，那又什么样？所以你做完了以后，接下来而且又做了一个对台湾也是也是一个很特别的，就是说马偕医生的故事嘛，音乐剧，然后他是一个外国人，但是又在台湾。那所以你那时候，那是有什么样的原因让你有机会可以继续往下做呢？是因为有人邀请吗？还是你自己也很想要对台湾有更多了解？这个计划到底是怎么来的？黑须马街。
黑须马街 is a very particular adventure of contemporary music of a Taiwanese composer who is living in the United States. His name is Gordon Jin Shiwen. And he writes opera music with the musical material of Western music, so for symphony orchestra and the orchestra, and lyrical opera singers. So it was very difficult to do this opera because it was, on the one hand, a complete Taiwanese story. And based in Taiwanese history, but really old history from end of the 19th century, and the musical material which was contemporary, and it was a huge operation because but it was a very, very important experience. It was like a challenge. It was a challenge because you know better than me the importance. Of a historical character like Magie in the development of the health system, of education in Taiwan. So it was really something where, for the first time, I had the impression to be in a story which is particularly Taiwanese. And by the way, the libretto, the text of the opera, was written by the director of this theater of Joyce Cho, who is sitting there, and we had this is where we met for the first time. Where we had this extraordinary collaboration for this very challenging opera that we did in, it's almost 15 years ago. It was in 2008, And since you were asking me of the next collaboration with Wang Xinxin about another type of Nanquan opera, it was just for me the curiosity to go even further in a contemporary version of this kind of music. So we tried to develop a story which is happening today. So it was nothing from like Luo Xunfu was 草枝. It was very old material, and there we tried to tell a story which is happening today, like in a store who's selling wedding dresses, and to imagine that there's something. Miraculous, which is breaking into a very contemporary reality from today, and this was rather intimate. It was a chamber opera. We did it in the studio theater of the National Theater. So, I mean, that brings me to the question again: why me and why here? You see that I had every opportunity was welcome for me to come back and to go into further experiences with Taiwan, and it was like a discovery for me of what Taiwan really is, And it didn't stop yet. I mean, it's not the end of it. I mean, I'm always, when I'm coming back, I have just a feeling I'm just beginning. Well, we have this Chinese classic, which is The Journey to the West, Xi Youji, and I feel a little bit the monkey that goes in the opposite sense, the Dong Youji. I'm the monkey which is traveling in the opposite direction, and it's a journey that never stops actually.
我先接，如果你们有听懂在讲什么，我只要补充说，所以你看他对台湾的经验真的是全面的，他不是说只有文化，还有身体有没有，而且还去慈济看病。你看他什么都重要的点他都有经历到了。那个故事要跳回一下那个吃药情节，好不好？就是要回到欧洲一下好了。我讲一个比较有趣的事情，就是其实卢卡斯他是歌剧导演，那大家知道歌剧导演的生活跟一般人是不太一样的，因为歌剧的排练都，因为我要邀他的时候，我突然发现说，对他那个都是短的，就是因为歌手都是要到某一个礼拜才集中到那边嘛，所以我就发现说他应该是常常在飞机上睡觉才对，因为他应该都不全世界跑来跑去这样。现在要问就是说，对，没有错，在2005年之后，他开始慢慢在台湾，有很密集的发展。我应该先讲一个大问题啊，然后再讲欧洲，就是我想要回到洛神父。洛神父是不是后来有因为亚明的关系，有回到法国去巡演？那个当时的状况是怎么样？我觉得这个很重要，因为这个等一下为什么要提这个？因为我们这一次台中歌剧院参加了这个跟台北艺术中心合作的这个副演人，也是跟这个亚明文化之家合作的，然后他们之后也会安排这个演出在欧洲的巡演，这样。所以现在想提一下2006年可能那一次吧，对。
Well, that is really the big question, actually, mostly in the actual situation, because, I mean, I could go very far now into things that maybe take too much space and time, but actually, the reason why Taiwan has become so important for me is everything what I discovered about the way of practicing art and a certain way of living and a certain way of a society to work and to function. And this has become a burning actuality now, as we have the big discrepancy between the epidemic situation in Europe and in some Asian countries, and most of all Taiwan. So we had the chance to do this production of Luo Shenfu and to have a system of co-production between a French theater and a Taiwanese theater, and we created at the National Theater in Taipei, and then brought the production to France, and it was performed in Amiens and in 12 other cities, and in Paris it was a very remarkable success at the Théâtre de la Ville, and naturally we are hoping, and we were always hoping to bring other productions that we did in Taiwan and to France, and we have partners in France. We are doing great efforts to make this possible, and unfortunately, in the last years, it has become more and more difficult to do this kind of operations. For an opera, it's especially difficult because it's so huge as in proportions of technique and human. Number of people and everything, but even for theater productions it has become difficult. But now we have a situation where the theaters are closed and don't do any performances for now several months. It has started last March. Everything was closed until summer. There was a break of revival in beginning of autumn, with very strict conditions and less audience and seats that are free, and there's a reduced number of people admitted to the theater. So very strict conditions. Everything stopped again in October, and ever since in France, absolutely no theater performance. No dance, no opera, nothing. And imagine what this creates as a situation, because there's many productions are cancelled, but some are just postponed. I myself, I would have had through 2 opera premieres last year, one in Austria and one in France. It was just postponed, so instead of doing it last year in June and in September, it will be done this year in June and September. Hopefully. We don't know yet. Nothing is sure. So there's a sort of long waiting list of productions that are ready to be performed as soon as the theater are reopening again. So will this have an impact of our project to bring our next big project, Yen Zhen, to France? Will it be possible? There are good chances. There's a lot of curiosity, but we don't know about the impact of all this. What I wanted to mostly to say is that this project that we're working in is, you can call it a dystopic vision of the world. The novel of Wu Mingyi, Yen Zhen, is about a vision of a very threatening future. But I remember one thing from my early years when I started to read books. When I was a teenager, I read 1984 of George Orwell. And for me, 1984 was very far away in the future. I could not even imagine that 1984 could be once a real existing year. It was so far away, because when I was 16, it was 1976. So it was far away. And then it happened, and it was there. And so it wasn't science fiction anymore. And we discovered that all what was George Orwell has written, not only because the year had passed and we are now in 1985 and 1986, not only for that reason, but more and more when you look into things, you discover that all what this George Orwell was written in his book is based on things that are really happening in the world. And this is the same thing which is happening with Wu Mingyi. Wu Mingyi has a book which is completely filled up with fragments of reality that everybody knows. And what might be a dystopic vision of an ecologic or man-made disaster, it's like a metaphor. It's a threat which is real and which is really existing. And now we are living with a real threat. And so it's like something with this, someone gives you a book and this is a science fiction book. It's about a vision of the future. And after a while you discover it's not future anymore, it's already there. And this is the feeling what I have concerning the situation that you have. So now I have the absolute incredible chance to be working under normal conditions in Taiwan with people that I can meet. And even if we, like you have all the mask on your face, I have the privilege because I'm talking. It would be bothersome for you if I had a mask. So everybody respects the rules, and this makes us able to live a life where we can go to a restaurant, meet each other, talk to each other, go to the theater. And this is incredible because when I talk to my friends or my colleagues at home, it's the complete opposite. It's nothing of all this is existing. And this brings me back to what I was saying initially. The reason that I came here and that I am coming back, so short, I'm coming back is what I maybe by intuition felt in the beginning as a terrible rich resource of talents and qualities in Taiwan. And I don't have to go into details for that. It's proving now that it exists and that it's real. Because if now we have this situation in Taiwan which allows us to live as we are living, as you are living, it's not only because Taiwan is an island. and it's easier to control who's coming in and by the, it's not only for that reason. It's not only because it was already discovered the 21st of December and earlier than admitted in any other country. It's not only for that reason. It's the reason of a certain way to live in this society and to cooperate in this society and to treat the rules. It's a question of spirit. Actually, it's a question of spirit and respect of the rules. And this is what we are terribly lacking, for example, in Europe, whether in Germany or in France. And this brings us to the terrible questions that are all evoked by Wu Mingyi in his novel. And that makes it, for me, such a big challenge to work on this project.
好，那我补充一下好了。其实我觉得台湾是这样啦，台湾就是长期以来都在危机当中，都在孤立当中，好不好？然后突然这个世界历史到了一个阶段的时候，然后西方的国家开始也在面对危机、面对孤立了，然后他们开始觉得很空虚，可是我们早就习惯了，对不对？对，所以我们就没什么差，而且我们还可以跟人家分享我们长期以来的经验，是我觉得某一个程度是这样子啊，就是那好，但是我半开玩笑，但是我要讲说，好，是那个亚眠哦，大家先讲亚眠不是一个，就那个法国北部那边都是工业城市，其实那边都是比较少人会去的。可是因为有做一个那样的戏跟洛神父合作，然后透过他的关系就去欧洲巡演。那大家知道，这种剧场的交流虽然没有办法像网络那么快速，但是它留下的痕迹也比较深远。我的意思就是说，永远人们会记得，或者是会知道那件事情。那我现在突然就有一个很有趣的想法，想想看，在这个全世界其他地方都不能做戏的当下，然后有一个关于末世预言的戏，就是改编自吴明益的小说，而且说不定我乱讲，说不定吴明益，说不定之后就得诺贝尔文学奖也不一定。然后你去想想看，说过了3年5年，当这个世界开始慢慢静下来了以后，然后有一个戏是在也像亚眠一样，就是说在那个全世界都没有办法做戏的时候，然后在台中这里他首演了，然后这个戏带着这个时代充满危机的时代，就是疫情的这个时代的这一个经验嘛，一定会进入到排练过程当中，或许无意识，但是一定有某些东西会进去。然后等到这个戏有一天到欧洲去巡演了，可能3年后啦，或许那时候比较可行的时候，人们有可能会在这个戏里面发现一个很重要的一个时代的一个经验，或者是对世界理解的感受，被保存在这个戏里面，而且这里面还有吴明益对这个世界的诠释。因为如果你看了这个小说，它是非常全球化，它有来自丹麦还是挪威的丹麦的科学家，对不对？然后也有德国的工程师，然后也有台湾，就是它其实是一个非常全球化的一个现象，因为那一个垃圾岛在撞到台湾这件事情，就是一个全球化的一个事情。所以呢，我回来，我的意思是说，这也是一个很难得的一个缘分吧。如果我们东方，我们就会这样讲，就是说透过这样，然后你想想看，等到3年后这个戏再去演的时候，所有这些大家的努力，就会在那个之后就会透过这个演出，会有一个我觉得会让我们看到一些不一样的东西。然后那也是我们台湾最珍贵的东西，好不好？那我们最珍贵的东西，不见得别人都有，但是现在这个时刻是最珍贵的，对不对？因为我们就是有这么多孤立的经验，所以我们被保护了，不是吗？就是我们之前很痛苦嘛，对不对？都被别人欺负，对，所以我们累积了很多经验。结果现在换他们被欺负的时候，我们就可以跟他讲说，你要怎么自保。好，这是我常讲的开玩笑，就是台湾就是我们终究在某一个时刻会对这个世界历史是有贡献的，那就是我们的危机的经验，因为我们就是一直很紧张嘛，我们就是老是很怕台湾不存在啊，我们每天都在那边让世界看见台湾啊，全世界没有其他国家像台湾这么紧张兮兮的啊，对不对？斯里兰卡不会天天在喊这个吧？台湾就是每天都在怕自己消失，可是是因为这样，所以我们都很认真活着。我觉得台湾人就是有这个特色这样，然后。可是不知道为什么，就是我们的日子来了，大概就是这样。但所以，可是我们不要高兴太久，因为这不是一种好经验，让大家知道吗？所以应该是要分享经验比较重要。所以我觉得这个戏由 Lukas 来导就很棒，因为这个复演人这个作品本身 本来就是一个非常丰富的一个经验的结合，所以他应该要有很多，或者就是他刚刚讲叫 bad good idea， 就是要有这些不一样的东西合在一起，他才能够跟这个东西来匹配这样。
There was a very interesting observation by a French literature specialist for Asian literature. He said that very often there's a sort of misunderstanding about books coming from these countries. That, for example, when people in France go to read a book from an author from mainland China, for example, he will buy this book because he is curious about China. And he will read a story which is completely Chinese with references, and he will even have a hard time because remembering all the names, it's so difficult for us, and all the references are Chinese, and it's like a closed world. And the same is happening because many people love that experience, like a traveling experience, to buy a book from Sri Lanka, from Singapore, from Indonesia. And there are all these particular worlds that are represented by literature that tell us this particular world, and we know it. And this is completely different with Taiwanese literature. This is completely Taiwanese because people buy books from Taiwanese authors, and you don't discover a sort of local literature that informs you about the local particularity of Taiwan, but it's world literature. And this is happening with Wu Mingyi. It's world literature. It's on the same level world literature as maybe James Joyce or Robert Musil or Thomas Mann or whoever. And I discovered that when I read this early book of him, which is about I don't remember the title. It's about a sleeping experience, and there's a man who enters in the cabinet of a psychiatrist, and at the wall there's a very famous painting, but who would know that? A painting of Ferdinand Hodler, who's a Swiss painter, Ferdinand Hodler, who has a very magnificent painting about sleep and night. And you find this in a book of a Taiwanese author. It's so astonishing. It's like the strength of Taiwan is how it is connected to the world. The curiosity of Taiwanese culture to the global adventure of arts. It's so particular. It makes a real difference of Taiwan with the rest of the world. I mean, I can remember when I was working on this Magie adventure, we had this absolutely fabulous symphony orchestra, the NSO, and I discovered I could have spoken German with all these people because all these people who were playing violin or viola or cello, they all had spent some time, maybe a summer course in Austria or in Germany. I mean, most of these people were speaking German. I mean, this is completely a good illustration of what I call a particular spirit of openness, open-mindedness, and curiosity towards the world. And this is a particular strength, which is, for me, particularly represented by Wu Mingyi.
卢卡斯讲的都是比较就是很伟大的，我就觉得没有台湾人都喜欢拍拍照，对，不喜欢待在家里，所以就那个吴明益，我是花莲人啊，所以我读吴明益的小说的时候，复演的时候，其实我还蛮有感觉的，因为他的故事的原型就是大部分都发生在东海岸嘛，然后也有讲到大学里面的东华大学的一些情形，然后。我觉得那很多都有来自他的一些经验，我甚至可以读得出来说哪一段角色或谁大概是从哪一个人物里面截取出来的。这样，你可以看到有那个就是来自非常我的意思是说，那个故事里面有他来自非常真实的感受的那个东西，所以我觉得他抓的是蛮精确的哈，包括说或许没有真正存在那样的一间小酒吧在海边，可是我就觉得对花莲就是会有类似那样的状况，就是我觉得那个体验是还蛮深刻。那我也知道说，其实 复演人这个计划在很早的时候就已经进行，我想至少应该有5年的时间了吧。因为我在台北艺术节的时候，我就已经知道这个计划就一直在进行了。那卢卡斯就也很长的一段时间，就陆陆续续都会为这个计划，然后来台湾工作这样，然后也去东部去做田野调查吧。要不要先来讲一下？这是很长的一段旅程哦，这不是叫 Uber Eats 的哦，什么 Found Food 什么就来做一做就走了，是非常早。因为原来这个作品是希望成为台北艺术中心的开幕演出嘛，但是因为台北艺术中心迟迟不能够盖好嘛，已经5年了，对不对？结果后来我那天去跟歌德学院主任讲，他跟我安慰，他说很棒，台湾了不起，德国都要10年，就德国至少要拖延10年。他说我们台湾其实效率还蛮好，我听了都蛮安慰。所以要不要跟我们讲一下那个当时是什么样的原因，然后会想要来做这样的作品，还有你早期的一些调查的一些过程去东部。
In a way, what I said before about my journey to the East, it's even true on a local level. I can say that inside Taiwan, I made my Dongyouji because first I knew the west of Taiwan, and after a while I discovered that this is not all Taiwan, that I have to go to the east to discover more. I remember that one of my first times when I came, and I went very often to the Changping Shudian because it's open very late and you have the jet lag, you cannot sleep, and it's wonderful because it's open all night, and you look at the books, and I found a book, and I found the title very interesting. The title was an English book. It was Is Taiwan Chinese? And I said, well, it's a real question. Is Taiwan Chinese or is it not? And actually I had to go to other places to discover what is Chinese and what is not Chinese in Taiwan. And this is what made me travel to the East, because East, it was just, I opened my eyes, I saw a world that I hadn't seen before, and it was so astonishing. And I had the absolute consciousness about this novel of Wu Mingyi. You cannot just go for a project without knowing what is exactly the background of it. And the background, I mean, it's a delicate question because it's a very political question. The background is very much influenced by Aboriginal culture in Taiwan. But it's not a novel about Aboriginal question. It's not a book that is treating a political question. It's not vindicative. It's not about political conflicts. But it's a background, and as a background, it's completely linked to the material of life itself, and to very personal personal biographies that are marked by disasters, by communities in the East, and the poor life in the city, and you have to be into it to understand what it's all about. And I mean, it was very funny because I made a lot of encounters, very interesting encounters, very enriching encounters, on a very intense and on a human level, very rich. And one of it was not at all at the East, but it was like sort of. By chance I went to see the tent in the Ba Gongyuan, where Banai is living for now, I think 1,400 days to mark a protest against the government policy about territories in the East. And when I first was talking to her, I asked her about the novel if she knew it, and you know, I mean, she's very impressive because she's very tall. I mean, I think if I would meet her in the night in the street, I would go to the other side because I would be afraid of her because she's so tall and she has such a deep voice. And well, I was a little bit afraid, but I showed her the novel. And, do you know this novel? Oh yes, so this is the book where he took one of my songs without asking me. And for me, it was one of these persons that showed me a reality of Taiwan, which is I think nobody was really talking about it until some years ago, and now it becomes more and more present. And the novel of Wu Mingyi is a sort of anticipation about the importance that all these questions take in the Taiwanese society. And for me, it was a discovery of. This is very difficult to say. It is very difficult to say because it's something about. It has to do also with a spirit, with a spirituality, and you can maybe find an easy formula to classify it, but it wouldn't be right. So I don't want to go too much into details for now. I think I'm maybe more apt to do it in my work when I direct the play. It's maybe on a human level more just, more right in that sense. But I have the feeling that there is when you go to the east of Taiwan, there's sort of a healing energy. It's something. There's something that brings you a great well-being or a well-doing, and I think there's a collective awareness about how important this is for Taiwan as a whole. Even if you are at the west, at this side of the country, in the great urban communities, big cities and industrial areas, I think Taiwan is working as a whole, and this is a very important part of it, and people are more and more aware about it. And our project, I think it's also about that.
东部最重要的就是海，山之外就是海。那西部的海呢，就病恹恹的，好不好？那东部的海就很蓝，就很有生命力。所以我自己我是在花莲长大嘛哈，到念高中以后，就念大学以后我才离开。那离开以后，当然我到后来大部分时间都不是在国外，就是在北部，我就比较少回花莲。但是那个18年已经很够用了，对，就是很疗愈啊。我觉得当然就是那个自然的力量哈。那原住民的文化当然也是我们生活中的一个部分啊。你们知道原住民的语法是主词会放最后面吗？很开心吧，我们对不对？好，这样就有点像原住民在讲话，对不对？啊，喜不喜欢呢你？好。那这是什么意思呢？这如果说语言可以代表我们思想的话，就是那个主体是放在比较后面，行动比较重要哦。就是我们如果有语言的话，假设我叫我最前面，我就把我自己看得比较重要嘛，对不对？那我觉得当然，原住民的文化还有原住民，然后还有东海岸的这个自然环境，说实在，现在也已经蛮糟了啦。这个就是你在傅衍人的小说里面会看到他在讲开发的问题，比如说刚他在讲的时候，我马上在想说，我突然就觉得说，算了，高铁不要延伸到宜兰好了，因为那个小说里面有一段其实是在讲那个宜兰的那个隧道的嘛。那这个你们知道，我问宜兰人，宜兰都会说有没有影响？他说有影响。第一个，他说你有没有留意到？他说基隆的雨变少了，他们也在谈这件事情，说因为那个孔开的这个关系，所以不是说东部是最美好，或许以前西部也很美好，但问题就是那个工业化也是这个小说在讲了，就是一直在包围嘛，然后那个绿地，那个有生命有灵魂的那个地方就是越来越少，越来越少，然后现在甚至已经东移往台东了，就以前台东没有那么热门，现在台东变得更热门，因为台东污染更少嘛，就更远嘛，哦，那以后要去兰屿了嘛？不行，兰屿已经有核电厂了，已经有核废料了，我要怎么办？菲律宾好了，好。 所以我觉得这个小说当然有很多部分其实也是一个它非常现实的一个原因那我想要问一下卢卡斯说，那当你在面对一个，当然剧场跟小说一定不会是一样的，一定也是某一种程度跟他的一个对话。那你在读这个小说，当你要在剧场要做的时候，你会想要去凸显，或者是你想要去捕捉哪一个部分？不一定要讲细节，但你可以讲讲你的策略。
Actually, when I first had the idea that this could be the material of a play on stage, I immediately thought, well, this is impossible. I mean, it's just impossible to adapt. And on the other hand, I thought maybe exactly what is impossible is the interesting challenge of it. To find solutions that are not in the facility of just dialogues and transposing words of a novel to spoken words into a book. And what inspired me is, once again, the resources of so widespread varieties of talents that I found here. Because what was also always so impressioning for me to work with Taiwanese artists, Taiwanese colleagues, is the skills in different arts, in music, in puppetry, in dance, in the technical skills. I mean, I had always the impression when I was talking to technicians in a theater that these are high qualified engineers, and they know so much about electronics and about the newest technical discoveries and what you can do with it. So I thought maybe the variety of all these talents give the opportunity to develop a sort of new language. And now the chance is that all these elements that we are used, everybody is now talking about these elements because of the COVID crisis. Everybody is now thinking about how can theater cope with video? How can puppets? I mean, puppets don't need masks. How can puppets is very interesting for theater. So it's like by chance, we were oriented towards techniques, aesthetics that go into something which is quite of an actuality. When Yiwe was talking about the ocean in the east, that brought just to me to the mind that what I find so important is that many of these experiences in literature are based on facing the unknown. And when I think the big emotion that I had at the East, and it is for me like a metaphor for what I was saying before, like confronting the challenge of something unknown, of something new, of doing something that is not assured by what you already know, what you can do with the material. It's when you are at the Pacific Ocean in the East, you have the feeling to be at the end of the world. You can feel the vastness of the ocean which is in front of you, which has nothing in comparison to other, whether it's the Atlantic Ocean or the Baltic Sea or whatever. You never have this emotion when you're at the East Coast. It's the immensity of a border, of an extremity. And this extremity is always, for arts and for literature, very inspiring.
复眼人这个小说有一个非常有趣的地方，就是说它的核心实际上是原住民。然后这个原住民他们的世界里面，他们有语言，但是他们没有文字。然后你会发现说，虽然它的核心好像是一种非常原始的或者是神话的，但是它又被透过一层一层的翻译， 就是说我讲的翻译不只是故事里面的翻译，就是说这个里面这个主角，然后阿特烈，然后他来到这个世界，然后碰到这些东海岸的人，然后还有慢慢的扩及到了这些来自世界其他地方的人，就他有一个好像很在地，但实际上他又非常全球的一个现象。但是同时，吴明益这个小说也很快的就被翻译成很多语言了，比如说翻成法文、德文，我记得英文当然也没有也一样嘛，哈。然后刚卢卡斯在讲的时候，我突然就感觉说，这个感觉，我就在想他的角色，然后我马上就想到那种美国有一些现在那种比较有，不能讲说后殖民思考，就是说有比较当代思考的那个印第安人电影都会骂说你们白人怎么样这样，所以就会觉得说，好像吴明益这个戏的这个作品里面也是有3层的翻译，就原来是一个很台湾的故事，或者是一个很原住民的故事，然后变成是你们白人，好不好？就是我们这些汉人，然后我们去诠释它，因为实际上它是一个汉人写的，它不是原住民写的。然后呢，这个小说某一个程度又在外化，又被一个来自欧洲的导演又要把它翻成是一个新的东西。我觉得好像那个。我的意思是说，好像这一本我讲的是有点比较神话性啊，就是说，我会觉得说，好像这个小说的内容本身它有一个命运，是把一个非常在地的东西跟全世界连在一起，小说的内容嘛。然后这个小说本身好像也有这样的一个命运，不管在各方面都是有一个非常一个台湾在地的东西，但是它要同时跟这个世界对话。这样，我有这个是我的直觉，但通常我直觉都还蛮准的啊。我只有刮乐不准而已，对，所以我都不赌博。那我想要问一下这个导演，就是说，那所以呢，你在这个创作过程里面，又回到你的这个本源啦，哈，就是说，所以你是还蛮依赖集体创作的吗？就是你这些想法或这些东西，是你通常都会已经先架构好了，然后很完整了，还是说你会花很多时间去接纳偶然啊，然后或者是你会很依赖你的演员或你的设计师，在跟他们碰撞的时候，然后去找到一些灵感。
It's in both ways. On the one hand, I have to be very strict on the structure of a project, which is of a complexity which is a little bit frightening, because it's a real technical challenge. On the other hand, I want to be open to inspirations that are coming in the working process. So I have to be. I mean, it's my way of working. I can give you an example. When I do, for example, an opera, and he was saying at the beginning that opera work is very, very particular because you have very, very little time. So you have to be absolutely well prepared, because the singers are not there for all the time, and you have really to give them precise information. So what I'm normally doing is to know exactly how I want the scene to be placed, to be blocked, where everybody's standing, sitting, doing what, at what position, and then I forget it. I mean, it's just I have to have it like a piece of paper that I have in my pocket, and it gives me some heat in my back, so I know it's there, like an assurance. And then I forget it because I want to be absolutely spontaneous. It's like it's stage magic. I mean, we have always to be a little bit magician when we do the work. And I think it's the same thing here. I want everything to be perfect in the preparation, and then to be free to just react to what is happening in the working process. I think this is the best way to do it.
我2017年的时候邀卢卡斯，那时候我还在台北艺术节当总监，我邀他跟一心戏剧团合作一个歌仔戏，叫《啾咪阿仔》，那是改编一个法国的一个喜剧，但是是由那个歌仔戏团来。然后我非常喜欢这个演出，而且我那时候非常惊讶，我那时候对卢卡斯的印象就是说，哦，这个导演很会导戏，他很会导是因为他的戏比较幼柔。然后就是说比较细致，然后他不会用一个很强的一个导演观念去把你吓到，比如说演员站上去，然后就全部裸体，然后就在那边翻滚，这样就是用那种很强的，有没有那个瓦萨比这样？不是，他就是，然后他其实 你还是会感觉到那个戏它有保留那个原来歌仔戏的那个味道，但是它变得质感变得很高了，好像有些女生浓妆化的太浓，你知道吗？然后他就帮她素颜这样，然后那个痣也保留，而且就变得更漂亮。我不太会讲，就是然后就觉得说，哦，他就是，所以我对卢卡斯的感觉就是他是一个很温柔的导演，对，就是他会去听那个作品或者是那个类型他要的东西，这个跟我在看那个《洛神赋》的感觉也是有点像，然后把他那个可能这个作品或者是这种表演里面原来比较少见的质地，哦，像那个一心戏剧团那个戏就是哦，你就发现说歌仔戏里面其实有一个质地，然后那个质地是可以很典雅的，而不是那么闹的东西。我觉得他要把那个东西带出来，我觉得这是卢卡斯很厉害的一个地方。其实舞台超简单的，什么都没有，就是一块投影而已。可是那些不要的东西都去掉了以后，反而戏变得更好看。哦，这是我的一个感觉哈。所以你看他歌仔戏也导过了，所以他一路从那个梨园戏，然后南管，然后这样歌仔戏，这样一路这样上来，然后现在要来做这个的部分，这样。那最后要不要谈一点点音乐？因为作曲家有在，跟我们讲一下音乐在这个戏里面的功能是什么？因为毕竟这个戏有我们作曲家。好，大家来观望，等一下找到前面。
Surprise, surprise! The composer is with us, and I want to present to you Yoon Jin, who is an extraordinary composer of contemporary music, which I cannot describe. It's too particular to give an explanation with words, but it's not like any other contemporary music that I've heard before, and it's exactly for that reasons that I'm absolutely happy about our collaboration. And I can't tell you very much about it because it's really a working process where I cannot give the information that you might like to have, because I myself I don't have them. All what I can say is that we are in the music is very important. It's almost as if the play was an opera with very few singing, but a musical thought, a musical universe, which is almost like a lyrical piece, because there will be a big orchestra which is pre-recorded, and there will be also an orchestra on stage, and there is many things happening in this play that are expressed with the music. So the music is a dramatic element. It's not only illustration. It's not only background. It's not only like a smooth element to maybe to do transitions or something. No, it's an actor. It's an active acting element in the play. So this is all what I can say. Just to come back, because it was interesting to talk about this Guzaishi experience, because it's I have to say that the interesting element once again is it was his idea, not mine, to bring in a French play. This is again, as I said, it's Taiwanese world culture. He knows about Marivaux, and an author which is very well known in France, but not very well known, not even in Germany so well known. And he had this idea to bring together these complete different universes of Guzaishi and French classical comedy of the 18th century. And it was a very good idea. First of all, thank you for this excellent idea. And then it's also for me sort of a beginning, and I hope very much to have another opportunity. It's like as I said before, the experience that we were telling about Luosh and Fu, my collaboration with Hantan Yefu, and later on this collaboration with this extraordinary Nanquan singer who's Wang Xinxin, where we tried to do something experimental, something new. And I would like to have the opportunity to go into another experience with this Yixin Gezai Shi Tuan, with this company, because we had this collaboration. And just to give you an example, it's very particular for someone like me to work with a company like that, because it's a family. it's a family. I mean, it's 3 generations of persons belonging to the same clan, and they're transmitting their tradition in a family. It's like in Europe we have only circus in circus families in Europe like that. In theater, that doesn't exist. So how do you work with a family? It's like when you try to do something new, something different. You have all the weight of the traditions, and you have the idea maybe to do something different. And I can easily understand that they're just lost, because it's so completely out of what they're always doing. And this was concerning many questions of because they have very it's like a code of movement, and a code of clothing and of makeup and everything. And when you see the photos that we just saw, there are photos of the performance, and there were photos of rehearsals that I took myself. And in the rehearsal photos, they don't have makeup. And I found the photos so interesting, because they cannot imagine to go on stage without their kind of heavy makeup. And I would like to encourage them, if we once work again together, to try out something different, without this heavy makeup, or different makeup, or something more human, more close to their. Because you wouldn't even recognize them if they're on stage and you see them afterwards. You wouldn't recognize them. So heavy is the makeup. And when you see their personal face expression in the rehearsal photos, it's so interesting, and it fits so much to the work that we were doing, that it's just, well, there's really something that we could discover together in another collaboration.
我们可以开放一个问题，有没有现场朋友想要利用这个机会来问一下 Lukas？ 好，来。
Hi, Director Lukas. Hi， 我想要请问你，就是你在这几十年导演的经验，就是你面对不同的文本、不同的演员、不同的剧场跟不同的环境，那做戏就是无止境的沟通，无止境的沟通嘛。那你有失败过的经验吗？那失败的经验是什么？没有失败过。想那么久。就是这样。
Well, I think I'm not proud of everything what I've did in my life. I have productions that leave me with a feeling of frustration of not to have obtained what I wanted. And I think it's always linked to a personal condition. I can remember that I was going through times where I just wasn't well with myself. And I think when you are not well with yourself, you cannot transmit something positive to others. And maybe you are in a doubt, or in a insecurity, in a personal insecurity, and you compensate it with authority. So you're stern, and you're very strict with people, and that leads to some bad communication. But on the other hand, failure, if there wasn't any failure in your career, you cannot learn, because failure makes you learn many times more than a success. There's this wonderful sentence of Samuel Beckett, who said, in French it is échouer, échouer encore, mieux échouer. It's like to fail again, to fail better. This is what we have to do.
回到我开头，大家知道卢卡斯是一个很特别的人。比如说，像我每次他很少说他是德国人，但是他都会说他是欧洲导演，就是说他也是都是一直在离开他熟悉的环境。就是我觉得他这个人然后一直到现在，我想说他可能40几岁快50岁，然后又突然开始学中文，这样你会发现说他有一个很强的一个学习心。我只是要说，但是我觉得有一个东西，他你可以就我的补充关于失败，应该这样讲，我们台湾的教育 的环境里头，把失败这个问题看得太严重，就失败等于错误。但是如果你在剧场里面，或你在艺术里面创作，失败往往是可以发现一些你原来看不到的事情，所以有时候失败其实让你路可以走得更广。那我觉得这个经验在我们真正的成长里面没有被好好的被鼓励，但是我觉得西方人或美国人或者是欧洲人，我觉得他们是真的有比较被鼓励做这件事情，就是在生活中有很多可以去失败、可以去尝试的那个东西，我觉得是比较多。那我们觉得在艺术里面也可以找得到，但是在我们原来的台湾这个环境里面，我觉得我们这个东西不多，所以你们稍微去留意看，现在真正很成功了，像李安啊，像魏德胜啊，像那个红海那个谁，那个郭台铭，你看他们都不是很有名学校毕业，为什么？因为这个就是很台湾，因为从小就很失败，所以都不会觉得失败有什么了不起的。然后那个从小都考第一名的，就把失败看得太严重了，所以以至于第一个不敢冒险，第二个有一点点失败就不敢再继续往下走，好不好？所以如果你有小孩子成绩不太好，你应该要开心，好不好？不要太严肃啊！今天也非常谢谢大家来参加我们这个讲座。